81771 for your text. Do you think tattoos are unprofessional? The Police Federation in England and Wales says its officers should be allowed to have tattoos on their necks, hands and even their faces. Some police services, including the Metropolitan Police and including the PSNI as we understand it, have a ban on all visible tattoos. Not tattoos generally, but certainly visible tattoos on the face, the hands, the neck, saying that they send out the wrong message. But with 1 in 3 young people now having a tattoo, should that be changed? Is that attitude to tattoos really indicative of another generation's perspective about these things? How would you feel, for example, if you were being treated by a nurse or a doctor who had a visible tattoo? Would it affect your attitude to that professional? What about teachers? What about lawyers? Perhaps you've got tattoos you feel it's held you back in your career. Maybe you have to keep them covered up. Maybe you're in a job where you can display your tattoos proudly. We want all your calls on this. 03030 80 55 55. The great tattoo debate begins right now on Talkback with the accountant Felicity Huston, who is tattoo free, and the journalist, writer and broadcaster Fionola Meredith, who is
also tattoo free,
but who has a different view on tattoos. Why are you tattoo free?
I just don't want to mark myself in some kind of permanent defining way, because you'd be stuck with it, wouldn't you? What symbol could sum up what I want to say about myself? I don't think there is one, although, people who are close to me have tattoos and I have nothing against them.
So your tattoo freeness is a lack of imagination?
No, I think it's an excess of imagination, because I just can't be, confined by a single tattoo.
Why are you tattoo free, Felicity?
Well, amongst other things, I gather it's extremely painful.
Yeah, there is that.
Is it really that painful?
Well, I'm told that, so having not tried it.
Take an ibuprofen before you go in.
Well, I don't like going to the dentist. I try and avoid that, except every 6 months. So to have a lot of little tiny needles stuck into you unnecessarily, and you're stuck with it for life. I mean, I do think that's the thing with this generation who are getting themselves tattooed.
You can have it lasered off.
But I'd gather that's
you can have it
incredibly
redesigned.
painful as well. Yes,
we've got all these TV shows like Tattoo Fixers where they incorporate the tattoo you don't like in a new tattoo, and
they
you can
redo
fix
it for you. Yes, but you're still
it.
stuck with it. And I mean, I'm not sure how good the lasering is, particularly if it's come up onto your face.
I don't like the idea of lasering anywhere near my face, to be honest.
No, there is that. Yeah, I just don't think. But there's a real generational shift, I think, when it comes to tattoos. Previously they were sort of seen to be the preserve of thugs, louts, social subversives, Hell's Angels. I don't know what. Yeah, true. Yeah,
they had the spider tattoo on the neck. That's how they got.
That's how they got. Yeah, right. So that's the way it used to be. But now more and more, as you say, more and more young people are getting them. And to be honest, they're the opposite of subversive. They're actually really mainstream. And most people, what they get is it's something like, I don't know, a butterfly or a dolphin or a Chinese symbol or something
tribal
like that.
Tattoo, which is just so predictable, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, the old cultural appropriation. Oh yeah, you don't want to get into that. But it's fairly anodyne, fairly ordinary. Most people wouldn't get too worked up about it. So that's why I can see that when it comes to looking for people to get involved in the police and to get in really good recruits, of course they don't want to automatically rule out a whole subsection of people who could probably do the job very well, but just for this one small thing are being ruled out.
According to one study I've seen, Felicity, 42% of managers say their opinion of someone would be lowered if that person had visible body art, tattoos on their hands, their necks, their face, or maybe behind the ear. That can, you sometimes see people with a star behind their ear. 3 out of 4 respondents believe, this is more generally, not just the managers, that visible tattoos are unprofessional. Are you one of those 3 out of the 4 who believe that?
I don't think I'm that bad, but I'm still a bit confronted by somebody with the tattoos up onto their face, up their necks, like that.
Would that rule them out of a job in your mind?
Well, I certainly wouldn't have wanted to have my receptionist sitting like that in my office for my business. No, it's not part of it. It doesn't really go with our profession. Certain businesses, I mean, the creative industries, everybody's tattooed. The hospitality industry, I mean, you go into restaurants, everybody's tattooed. Many of them are pierced as well. It's part of it. But other fields of work, that just isn't the case. And I mean, I say, as we've all said, it's partly generational.
So
but
what kind of jobs? And I'm trying not to assume that you're making a class judgment here, but when we use the term professional, we often mean a class-based distinction amongst jobs, don't we?
No, I think it's more that they expect their accountant, their lawyer, their doctor to be a bit boring and a bit straight, because you don't want somebody risky looking after your accounts.
So tattoos means risky. You're a risk taker.
I think it does still infer that in it.
I don't think that's the case anymore.
Our generation.
Well, yes, it is a generational thing, because I think that they really seem quite different to younger people. I do think it's seen as much more mainstream, to a penny, nothing to get that fussed about. And, obviously there are generational issues here, but I think, with regard to, the cops, goodness, like, we've had such big public debate over the last week or two about how difficult it is to be a police officer, and how emotionally resilient you have to be, and all the rest of it. So really, tattoos are neither here nor there. You want people who can do the job.
I think the problem with the policeman is, of course, emblems and signs here in Northern Ireland are so massive anyway that if your policeman turns up with the wrong, or policewoman,
that's true. I mean, you couldn't go for anything overtly political or religious, but most
they're
tattoos
already
aren't
banned in the police guidelines. They're clearly banned.
Yeah.
But in addition to banning, sectarian, racist, homophobic, or other kinds of abusive
ones,
ads, you wouldn't expect to see those in police officers. We do have a ban in some police services, including the PSNI, on any kind of tattoo that is visible, because that's inconsistent with the uniform. They think. Is that a thing of the past, though? That's the question.
Well, actually, Home Office advice states that tattoos may be acceptable, but it's at the discretion of each force, and it depends on each individual case.
And you couldn't have that ban in the police in New Zealand, could you?
Right, exactly.
Because you'd be excluding an awful lot of Maori men, and that would be ethnically discriminatory.
That's it. I mean, there are all sorts of borderline cases that require, just an individual decision to be made. That seems really sensible to me. I think what has happened is that forces have interpreted this in a more stringent way. Some have done that and some less so, and I think that's what the Police Federation, who've spoken out about this, are disgruntled about, that it's just, there's not a clear cut understanding of what this actually means.
There's another question buried in this, Fionola, and that is, how do police officers see members of the public with tattoos? Might they, in a sense, profile a member of the public and think this person's more likely to have criminality attached to them if they have a visible tattoo?
Well, I think, people make all sorts of assumptions about each other, but like I keep coming back to, I think that the old idea that one automatically suspects someone who has a tattoo is really being entirely washed away.
Dr. Vishal Madam is with us, consultant dermatologist and laser specialist. Simply, we were asking that question a minute ago. Dr. Madam removes a lot of tattoos. Good afternoon. Welcome to you.
Good afternoon.
And you have an increasing number of people asking for that treatment, for the removal.
Yes, lots of people have tattoos, and it's logical that lots of people will want to have the tattoos removed. And there are many reasons why people come to us for having the tattoos removed. The foremost reason would be some kind of a regret or remorse. We've got to remember that most people will have tattoos when they are very young. And as time goes on, life moves on, and they find that they don't like the look of the tattoo anymore. It reminds them of a certain life stage which they don't want to think about. So that's the most common reason. With regards to professions, there are certain groups of people, like, for example, people applying for a cabin crew job in a Middle Eastern airline. They've got a very strict regime, so they can't have any tattoos on show. And I've had young girls coming in who only got 2 weeks left for the interview, and they want the tattoo on their wrist to be taken off, or the tattoo behind the ear to be removed. So these are the kind of professional groups which will definitely come to us and ask for these tattoos to be removed for them.
And you can generally remove the tattoo pretty quickly, can you?
Not really.
Oh.
Tattoos are complex inks, and these are either amateur tattoos, which are just usually black in their ink, or there will be more complex tattoos, such as ones which are multicolored, which have deep-sighted inks within the skin.
Oh, yeah, the professional ones, yeah.
The professional ones, and these can require 20-plus treatments.
Oh, my goodness.
Based around 3-4 weeks intervals. So we're talking about sometimes months and years of a tattoo removal regime. So my advice to people who are thinking of having a tattoo is if you're starting off, have a small amateur tattoo or a black tattoo. But if you are a seasoned person, then you can have whatever you want.
Finally, this is fascinating, by the way, but finally, what's the weirdest tattoo you've had to remove?
I'll give you 2 examples. One of the tattoos which I had to remove was when there was this person who developed a reaction in their tattoo to the red ink. And these reactions are not actually uncommon. They react to the red ink, the amalgam, and they get really itchy skin lesions, bumpy lesions on the skin, which don't respond to any treatment. So the idea is to remove this ink. So we could do it either surgically by scraping it away or by using another laser to target the red ink. And then I have a group of patients who have tribal tattoos. So these are African patients who come from countries like Eritrea, and they have these vertical or horizontally placed tattoos on their faces. And they can be persecuted in their communities because they can tell where this person has come from, what's their village. And then these people are after each other. So there are people who come to me and they ask me to remove these tattoos permanently. Thankfully, we've been able to help quite a few of them.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Dr. Vishal Madam. Give that man a television series. Yeah, that would be fascinating, wouldn't it? 03030 80 55 55. We can squeeze one or two calls in before the end of the programme. Finola, hearing that, though, does that change your mind in any way about just how exciting or adventurous these things are?
I think most people, it isn't exciting or adventurous at all. I think it's fairly run-of-the-mill, and they choose, these generic images that, to my mind, are fairly boring. I've got to admit, when you see people with very old tattoos that have kind of gone a bit manky, I don't think that looks great. But that's an aesthetic thing. That's a personal judgment on my part.
If we're going to do it, you'd have it done professionally. You'd have it done properly.
Yeah, but then, you'd wonder...
a bit of complex art in there.
Over time, you would wonder if it would deteriorate. There was a really interesting case, I'll just say quickly, a couple of months ago, of a former Ministry of Defence policeman, a Christian, who was rejected from the ordinary force because he had a tattoo of a Crusader knight on his arm. And he plans now to sue that force, citing religious discrimination. So you'd say there's all sorts of kind of competing rights, clashing in this particular case. I thought that was an interesting one.
Big into the Crusaders then, is he? Hello, Eugene. How are you?
Hello, William. How are you?
Have you got a tattoo?
I'm 68 years of age, and I got my first tattoo about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
We only have the one child, my daughter, and we've been married for 40 years, and my daughter is in her 30s, and she had her first grandchild there on the 23rd of July. And I was lying in bed one night thinking I wanted to do something special for her, and I got my granddaughter's name on my forearm.
So this is a very simple tattoo?
A very simple tattoo. Athena.
What is the name?
Athena, Athena.
Athena, lovely name too.
So that's what I got done.
And no regrets whatsoever, Eugene?
No regrets whatsoever at all. It's in a place where I can wear a long shirt and not be seen, or I can, you know what I mean? It's up where, just further up where you wear your watch, if you know what I mean.
And you're a former chief constable, aren't you?
No. I'm a deputy technician.
I noticed you waited until you were retired. Okay.
I'm not retired yet.
Oh, no. Okay.
All right, William.
All right, Eugene, thank you very much. Lovely. That's inspired me. I might do it. I've been talking about it for years.
Anyway. Well, you're just not telling us.
I'll periscope it if I do. I'll periscope the pen. Felicity Huston Fionola Meredith, thanks to both of you for coming in.